then that the women who are isolated and stressed are 9 times as likely to have cancer, which also tells us that cancer is not an individual disease. Cancer reflects a lifetime relationship with the environment. And I could give you a whole talk about that, not just the physical environment. See, it's easy enough to say that smoking causes cancer, except we all know that smoking does not cause cancer, don't we? If smoking caused cancer, then everybody who smoked would have cancer. But most people who smoke don't have cancer, which doesn't mean that smoking doesn't contribute to cancer. Of course it does. It's a major risk factor. 95% of people with lung cancer are smokers. But it's not by itself the cause. When you actually look at the lives of people who get cancer, they're also people who suppress their emotions. And the more they suppress their emotions, the less smoke they need to trigger the cancer. So we have to stay away from this idea that single factors cause disease. So cancer doesn't just reflect. And by the way, why do people suppress their emotions? Well, that has to go back to their attachment relationships early in life. Because no 2-day-old baby ever suppressed their emotions, nor have you ever met one. So the suppression of emotion is an adaptive response. Remember that article from Pediatrics? It's an adaptive response to an environment that can't handle your emotions as a child. Then you learn to suppress it as a way of adapting, as a way of surviving. But then that same adaptation becomes a cause of pathology later on. Think of depression. You think, well, there's nothing adaptive about depression. Yes, there is. What is depression? What does the word depression mean? It means to push something down, right? You depress the pedal. What do we push down when we depress our emotions? Well, I was going to say, what do we push down when we have depression? We push down our emotions. Is there survival in pushing down our emotions? There sure is, if our parents can't handle them. Then in order to maintain our attachment relationship with the parent, we suppress our emotions because we sense that they're too stressed and they can't handle it, and then we become depressed. So that's an adaptation that later on becomes a source of pathology. Just as emotional self-suppression potentiates cancer, but that emotional self-suppression begins as an adaptation. So as somebody very astutely said in a New York Times series on cancer a couple of years ago, that you can no more understand, or trying to understand cancer by studying the individual cell is like trying to understand the traffic jam by studying the internal combustion engine. Okay? You can't do it. You have to do it, you have to study the relationship of that individual to the environment. And that's why, for all, I hate to tell you, but all the march for cancer and all the research, never going to get anywhere. They're going to come up with billions of dollars worth of research, and they're going to come up with treatment modalities that extend life by a few months. And in a few cases, will cure some cancers. But for the most part, they'll never find the cause of it because they're looking in the wrong place. They're looking inside the cell. That's not where the cancer originates. Because the other thing that we know now is that cells don't exist autonomously. Genes don't act autonomously. Genes are actually turned on and off by the environment. The whole study of epigenetics is how genes are actually activated or inactivated by the environment.